And I just want to thank the chairman and the members of the committee for having this public hearing. This is an issue that I think needs the attention of this committee. And Mr. Chairman, I thank you for granting the public hearing today. I thank all the folks who came from far and wide of the state to be a part of this hearing. This bill, Mr. Chairman, and we've dealt with midwifery in this committee before. You'll remember last session we had a bill that dealt with it. This bill is not intended to analyze which is better, home birth or hospital birth. That's not what this bill does. This bill simply deals with the question whether in delivering a child, whether someone who has training and certification who assists with that delivery should be subject to criminal prosecution, where someone who has no training and no certification would not otherwise be subject to prosecution. I just want to give the committee a brief story. I have a client who worked at McDonald's, and she was pregnant working at McDonald's. And she went into labor unexpectedly on her shift and had to go into the bathroom. Her supervisor didn't take her seriously, thought she was malingering, not wanting to work. She went into the bathroom to deal with her pains. And she was 22, Mr. Chairman, so she had never given birth before. She didn't know what this was. The fry cook with whom she worked recognized this as labor, told the supervisor to call 911, and went into the bathroom and helped this young lady deliver this baby. And unfortunately, that baby did not survive delivery. Mr. Chairman, the issue I have, and the issue I think this bill intends to address, is the fact that there had been in that restaurant a woman, or a man, I suppose, who had training in midwifery and who had a certification, perhaps sitting there with her two children eating Happy Meals, and had gone into that bathroom and helped that young lady deliver that child. And perhaps that child had survived. That woman would have helped at the risk and the threat of criminal prosecution. We're talking about the safety of children. There are stories of midwives who have risked prosecution and in fact have been prosecuted for stepping into the gap when there has been a woman delivering a child with complications and the life of the mother was at risk. And the midwife, in fact, saved the life of the mother. And yet she was turned around and prosecuted. Now, the complainant in that criminal prosecution was not the family. It was not the mother. It was the doctor, the OB for the woman, prosecuted the midwife. And she was prosecuted, and there's case law dealing with these types of prosecutions. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what this bill intends to do. It intends to address this issue where we have someone with training, someone with certification, who is able to assist in a birth, in a delivery, and to help protect the health and safety of the child and of the mother. And that person ought to be able to do so without the fear of criminal prosecution. And as the law stands right now, that person cannot. And the only person who can, and I believe Representative Henry mentioned this to me in passing, the only person who can is someone who has no training, who has no certification. So we're not here dealing with, members of the committee, whether home births are better than hospital births. My 3 children were born in the hospital. We're not here dealing with the extent to which we should license the practice of midwifery. We're not dealing with that. That's a complicated issue. We're dealing with a very simple issue here today, and that issue is whether someone who has training and certification in delivering children should be able to assist in that birth without the threat of criminal prosecution. Mr. Chairman,
you were talking about the difference in making this legal or not is due to their training. And I listened to your story. Why, if that is true, and that's pure what we're trying to do here, why would we not just change it to any contractual agreement? If there is no contractual agreement, why would that not be the trigger point rather than the training? That would solve the problem.
Well, that's not how the code is currently written. And like I was trying to explain earlier, and perhaps inartfully so, Mr. Chairman, the code recognizes recognizes the distinction between nurse midwives and lady midwives, and there's a historical basis for that. And all we're trying to do is we're trying to keep consistent with that distinction while eliminating the threat of criminal prosecution in the absence of a nurse midwife. And we can debate on another day, perhaps, whether nurse midwifery is effective, whether that's serving the rural parts of the state. That's not what we're dealing with here today. But I hear what you're saying about, the extent to which we turn it on a contract. I think that may be one way to get at this issue. The problem I see, just as an attorney, oftentimes you can have an oral contract. You can have an understanding. How do you base? I don't know of any other penal law where prosecution is based on the existence of contract.
That would prevent, though, the example that you gave with someone that was trained, whether they could help or whether they could not help, and surprise experience, I guess you might say, as the birthing of the child.
An emergency. Correct. And that would deal with it. And Representative Lita, I would be more than happy, and I know you have experience in hospitals and in healthcare, and I would welcome your help in trying to tackle this issue, because I do believe it is an important issue for this committee to address, and I look forward to the testimony today. Perhaps some of those testifying.
I'd like to get Representative Ford's question, comment, or whatever, and then I would like to get on with the public hearing, and if it's the will of the committee, we can have the sponsor after the public hearing field any questions that might come up as a result of the public hearing. Representative Ford, if you would please, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I came from a large family. I was born back in the 30s. My other sister and brother were born, some were born in the 30s and the 40s. And we probably live about a midwife. And all of us still live. My older brother, 86 years old. I got married when I was 19 years old. Me and my wife had five children. And her grandma was a midwife. And our next door neighbor was a midwife. So my whole family was living by a midwife. All of them still living and doing fine. I'm 75 years old. I ain't got a pain nowhere. I'm still living. So I don't understand why a woman can't choose what she want to have her baby.
They're slowing us down now. Anything else, Representative?
Again, when I say a large family, I mean large. I am, you're not going to believe it, I am 14 child.
Wow.
14.
Mr. Chairman, you don't look a day over 62.